How do you start a painting? That's a question a lot of painters struggle with, especially early on. And it's understandable. That first step can feel a little daunting, but it doesn't have to be. One of the ways I like to begin is with an imprimatura. It's a classical method that helps you get past the blank canvas and into the painting much more quickly. So in this video, I'm going to show you what an imprimatura is and how to do it. Hey there, I'm Layne Johnson. I help regular people learn classical painting techniques so they can paint the landscapes they love and have fun doing it. Welcome to my studio. Today I'm sharing one of the lessons from my course, Painting Dramatic Clouds 2.0. In this session, we're doing an imprimatura bistre. Imprimatura is basically the first layer of the classical layered approach, what's often called indirect painting. Bistre is often referred to as the rub-out method. This simple foundation makes everything that comes after a lot easier. Let's get started. Okay, we finished our pencil drawing and now we're going to get to the fun part. It's the messy part, so make sure you have your gloves on, and it's a good idea to put something maybe under your easel in case you have any drips. We're going to start the imprimatura. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. Okay, we're going to start the imprimatura. I'll talk a little bit about the image that we're going to be using. Back here is a bistre version. You should have a version of that. You should have a version that's in grayscale, and you should have a color version. You can use any of those for this particular, imprimatura. I'm going to use this version. Like I said, you can use whichever you want. We're going to be using burnt sienna. And burnt sienna is a color that very often is semi-transparent, but sometimes they are transparent. This color here is a Georgian color that, as you can see, the little square tells you it's transparent. So transparent is good for the imprimatura because it'll allow you to get your stain down, but you'll still be able to see the lines underneath. So when you start rubbing away highlights, you'll know where to rub. So let me show you how to make the imprimatura mixture. Okay, what I'm going to be using is the burnt sienna, and I'm going to be using Gamsol. This is basically a weak mineral spirit that works good for this stage. This is the only stage I use this. Other people use Gamsol all the time. It's just for me, if I use it a lot, I get headaches, so I don't like to use it. And it's always a good idea when you're doing this stage to make sure you have as much ventilation as you can. So have a fan blowing, and if you can open a window, that's great. But this is the only stage where we're going to be dealing with this kind of thing. So I'm going to put out some of the burnt sienna. I'm using basically a food tray. This is like a TV dinner type food tray. And let's put this out. It's not a very large painting, so you don't necessarily need tons, and you can always put out more. I'm using just the Gamsol with this stage. You are not going to be using liquid until the next part of the painting where I'm doing the dark values of the underpainting. You can sometimes, if you really want it to dry fast, add a tiny bit of liquid into this mixture. I'm not doing that today because I don't need it to do that. So I'm just sticking with straight Gamsol. So you just basically add your mixture in. You can go a little bit at a time. And I'm using a really big brush so that I can, when I get to the canvas, it'll be plenty large so you won't be just taking a lot of small strokes, because this first stage is going to go really fast. So you can see what a beautiful color that is. The mixture you're looking for, I always try to describe this. People ask me this all the time, what's the ratio? And it's hard to say a ratio for me, at least, because I paint large and then painting small. It's just, you have to go by feel. What I like to say is almost, you're looking for almost like a milky consistency. So what you don't want it to be is so thin on so much, so much of the turpentine substitute, basically. You can use turpentine for this too, but Gamsol is basically a solvent. And if you use too much solvent, you are going to maybe create a weak bond on that first layer, and you don't want that. You want to make sure you have a nice, good layer of paint. And very often what I'll do is I'll put down my layer and let it dry for a little bit, and then I will come back and kind of blend it again on the canvas. So we'll see how this goes. Yeah, I like using Gamsol because it is a weaker solvent at this stage. I use Chelsea products to clean my brushes, and it's a stronger solvent. And it's easier to use a weaker one. It works, in my opinion, better for doing something like this. And turpentine would probably work as well. It's just, again, it's a stronger solvent than Gamsol. Okay, I think that's about what we're looking for. And we're ready to go to canvas. Okay, we have our mixture together. This first step is going to be super fast because all we're doing basically is covering the surface of the canvas. And it's going to be dripping, so if you want to put something underneath this, then do that. Have your gloves on. Here we go. It wants to drip. Oh, it's a beautiful stain. You see a nice color stain on this. And once we get it covered, we're going to wait. And a lot of times people ask me, well, why this color? Why use this, quote, red? And the answer is, I generally do it for luminosity. A lot of times on canvases that I'm painting, like I could do it on this one, but you don't really need to. I would do the sky area where if we're going to have these highlights right here, this color works great. You can just look at paintings that other people do that use this kind of color, and it really does work great to create luminosity. But areas like down in the ground right here, you can use a darker earth tone color. I have used, Van Dyke Brown, burnt umber, but this works great. And in the next stage, when we do our bistre, we'll be rubbing out highlights. But the stage after that, where we complete the underpainting, we will be using darker valued colors and more colors that are a little more opaque. But you can see on this, you can still see where the lines are. It works. It's just a really nice color for this. I'm going to put some more up here. Now, it's funny, drying times on this is going to vary depending on where you live and the kind of climate you're dealing with, because there's lots of factors that affect it. And the only way to really check this out is at a certain point, just kind of test when we start trying to rub out to see if it's able to rub out any, or is it going to rub out too quickly? In other words, it's not drying very fast. There's nothing wrong with that. You just have to wait a little longer. But even if it dries faster than you'd like, then you can also just take a little bit of the Gamsol and into your paper towel and rub out highlights with that. So this right here is ready to leave alone. I'll come back in a little bit and kind of blend this around and then let it sit again. So right now, I'm stopping and waiting for this to dry. Okay, now I've got some paper towels. It's been about, 15 minutes or so. And I need to test to see if this is ready or not. And the easiest way to do this is just take a paper towel and just check a little bit of it. Now this looks pretty good. I'm going to take this paper towel and kind of just go over the whole thing. And like I said, if this is already too dry, you can just do your highlights by dipping it in some Gamsol. Yeah, this is good. It's kind of basically evening out the stain, gets rid of all the drippies. That's why I hesitate to tell people, well, it takes this long, because as many times as I've done this, it just depends on the conditions of the environment that you're in. I'm doing very lightly here. Now, I've done also this same thing and then come back with a mop brush to soften it all. You don't really need to do that. This is all things that are going to be underneath here. What I don't want are any solid pieces of paint sticking up, which obviously there's none. This is painted thinly, and I'd like the surface as evenly done as possible. Even that's not necessary, because what you're after is this color. And that's good right there. I mean, I'm just barely dragging it over this. Now, the next stage, we're going to be rubbing out highlights, and I'll show you what this, you could do it probably right now. I'll do a little test here. See, that's coming off very easily. So I want to let it dry just a little bit longer. Not a lot. So put a timer on your phone or whatever, your kitchen timer, and just add a little bit more time. So I'm going to stop again and wait, and then come back for the test again. And it will not be very long, I don't think. And then we'll progress with the bistre. Okay, it's been about 25 minutes in total since I stopped that first session. And then I came back a little bit later and evened this out. Now it's been about 25 minutes. Let's test to see how the highlights are going to be. I'm going to look on an area that's going to have more pure white. And that's just right. I don't want to necessarily be rubbing it to straight white. I prefer to have it go kind of not quite to that. And even in the areas that you can do straight white, you want to do that. You can just dip your paper towel or a Q-tip into your Gamsol and pull it out to straight white. So I'm start rubbing. And this does not have to be perfect either. So I'm trying to get to these big areas. Now, and I'm going to go ahead and use some Gamsol a little bit, because it may have been a little too long. This happens all the time, not a big deal. So I'm just been dipping my paper towel into Gamsol. Now watch this. There you go. Good, good, good. So you kind of can see these kind of clouds are kind of bubbly. So these kind of highlights, you can kind of twist the paper towel. Now you will have to keep changing it. In the area that I just did, it looks pretty good. Now, I want to warn you about something. This happens to me every single time I do an Imprimatura. I will get to the end of the Imprimatura and think it's the worst thing I've ever seen done. And something happens that's, I don't know, magic. I come back the next day and it's like, well, that doesn't look too bad at all. So it's just a different type of, quote, painting than you normally do. So you're close to it. You're trying to work fast before the paint dries. Now, if you're doing this in acrylics, you really have to work fast. And you may have to use something that, I know denatured alcohol will remove acrylics, but if you're doing water mixables, you have to work a little faster than oils, but not a lot. You can't really go wrong here. Basically, you're just giving yourself a little head start on your painting, because it basically reveals your values, rudimentary values, really. If you'd like to go deeper with this approach, this lesson comes from my full course, Painting Dramatic Clouds. You can find more details in the link in the description. It's always fun to try different ways of doing things. I mean, I've painted a long time where I basically just painted directly on top of the canvas, and I discovered this way a long time ago, actually. And I did it mainly not even knowing the proper term for it. I did it for speed because I was on deadlines. And like I said, this doesn't have to be perfect. Now, when we do our blue, the next stage after the underpainting, we're going to be painting the blue. That'll define the contour of the cloud. I always say, you know, shape before form. We're kind of cheating a little bit here when you're doing a bistre because it helps you to kind of see form a little bit, not just shape. It's a good reason to do it. As you can see, this does not have to be perfect. I'm going to go ahead and show you something else. This is the mop brush. It's totally dry. So I'm going to kind of soften what I just did. In fact, anywhere that you see something that looks coarse, you don't want it to be coarse, this works great. It kills that texture. This is what happens in these clouds. You get these areas of contrast that's what makes them dramatic. That's what makes almost anything dramatic is contrast. That's one thing that I see on student work all the time is they don't have enough contrast in their art. They'll have something that's too gray, or usually it's too gray. They just have, if you're drawing, you need to have, you know, your chiaroscuro has to have highlights and it has to have darks and then grays. But if you don't go strong enough on your darks, then you end up with a gray drawing, and it's with little contrast, and it just doesn't work as well. I think we're ready to call it. I'm going to step back a little bit just to look. And let's see, I'm pressing down here to see if I can remove a little bit of this. Actually, I'm going to get a dry paper towel and hit that area. No Gamsol on, just dry. And this is not really that necessary, but it's just taking the value down a little bit. And you could even do the same thing right here. Dry paper towel. Separates this part of the cloud from this area. Anyway. Context is everything. Always context. You hear me say color is context? Well, values are context too. This is what we need right here. This is the end of this session of the Imprimatura bistre. Looks pretty good. I have to say, it'll do. Tomorrow I'll look at it and go, wow, that looks really good. Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, done. As you can see, this is one of the foundational steps that can really change how your paintings come together. If you've ever felt unsure about where to begin or how to create a painting in layers, this is a big part of that process. If you'd like to learn this full classical process step by step, including how to paint more realistic dimensional clouds, take a look at my course, Painting Dramatic Clouds, at the link below. Thanks for joining me in my studio. If you enjoyed this video, you'll also probably enjoy watching the videos I've linked on the screen. Be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. If you're ready for more in-depth lessons, consider enrolling on one of my online courses where I teach classical painting techniques for landscape painters. You can find all my classes at laynejohnson.com or click on the link in the description below.